Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Here we go. Your dial is set correctly to USAPrepares.com. And we're delighted you're here. And Rick is typing away furiously on his keyboard. We can hear it.
Sorry about that.
2,000 miles away. And if you'd like to talk to Dr. Richard Allen Miller and call in, we've got a toll-free number, and we'll pay for the call, 866-582-9933, 866-582-9933. John is engineering the broadcast at GCN in Minnesota. I'm Vincent Finelli. Welcome, Dr. Richard Allen Miller.
Good morning. Sorry about that typing thing. One of our listeners, this one, Scott David, had just sent me a thing in caps. That means he's shouting, "Work sucks and life is a bitch. Looking forward to listening to you today. Get my mind off things." And my response was, good luck with that.
Yeah, whatever you do, maybe we shouldn't quote them verbatim. Maybe we'll just use our own words as a family broadcast. But so work is tough. And, I've said to my dad and my mom over the years, when did you ever have time to go to work? I am so busy, as a retired person on the farm that I can't imagine having a job, Rick. I can't imagine showing up and taking orders from some of the people that I've met in businesses. I mean,
that's your American dream. The harder you work, the more you have. And why would you want to have more?
Well, that's a really...
Is that a Jones thing, keeping up with him? Or what exactly is the American dream?
I used to say to my mom on trash day, and it was tongue in cheek, and I'd say, "Mom, how much garbage did we order? Do you think we should order some more, or do you think we have enough to keep up with everyone else? Because we don't want to look like we aren't throwing out enough stuff." And if you live in a neighborhood, you can see the wealth of a society based on what they throw away. And back in the 70s and the 80s, we used to throw away stuff like over packaging. We would throw that away. All these big plastic packages and these big boxes with the small contents inside. That's in our landfills right now. How stupid were we? How stupid were we to not...
At landfills, there's one in Eugene, Oregon, that in the 80s was a brand new place where they were going to put their garbage. And today, that location, as you drive down I-5, is a mountain. I'm not kidding. It is a mountain, and a small mountain, but it is like, it's embarrassing to realize that that's our byproduct waste. And when you realize that a lot of it is toxic things like batteries and, with heavy metals, lithium, sodium, whatever, potassium, it's crazy. And however, there was another thing that hit me as the first thing this morning, and I wanted to just mention it, and then we can move on. And it has to do with a variety of cults that sprang up in the early 60s. Now, many of these were started by such writers as L. Ron Hubbard and Scientology, which later has led to Tom Cruise, and I don't know the guy that played in Pulp Fiction. I can't remember his name right now, but everybody knows that are, primary front door accesses to things like Scientology. Now, L. Ron Hubbard wrote a book called Battlefield Earth, and they made a movie out of that, and it was played by the guy, I can't think of his name right now, that had to do with leveraging, which is what is happening today in downtown Washington, D.C. Pelosi et al., the only way Pelosi et al. Would have endorsed Hillary Clinton is if they were being blackmailed. And that is the way our culture today lives. And back in the 60s, that, by the way, L. Ron Hubbard was in the 40s with his sidekick, Jack Parsons, who was a physicist like I am. In fact, I am known today in the occult circles as the physicist that didn't blow himself up. And so stay tuned with what that all means. But today, we're talking about, the children of God. And then we're in Seattle, we had the Love family. And the Love family was very weird because some very famous children of very famous actors joined that family, gave all of their possessions to the family because, of course, you don't need them. And I made a movie out of Evergreen when I was teaching at Evergreen called Eat the Sun. And it was about a new religion based on biofeedback. And it was the Vidaru Telemahandi. And eat the sun, then you will be your own father. And that was a spoof that played in Cannes, won Best Picture Short of the year. It was a 1.5 hour cult movie that was a spoof on what was happening during the Children of God, the Love family, and all the rest of it. Scientology had a splinter group back then called The Process, and they were abducting people, which later led to smoke, the idea that you needed to get a cult extractor, someone that was experienced in going in and getting your children out of a cult. And that led to a bunch of movies that Harvey Keitel and others have played in that are absolutely worthwhile. But right now, this morning, Zen Gardner's in the front bullseyes. And personally, I don't care one way or another what Zen was. What I'm doing now is watching what Zen is doing today. And as far as I can tell, that man is still a way better writer than I am, articulating spirituality on a level that I wished I could write. And while he is being attacked publicly right now, so was I last in a couple of years back with recent, as simple as people from your own radio station. Why? Well, I don't know. I don't know what their intent or purpose is. I know what mine is. I get a sense of what I thought Zen Gardner's is. I don't know what it all means right now, except distraction. Because right now, this election, coming up, presidential election, is a disgrace to the American public. And rather than vote against somebody by voting for somebody I do not believe in, that is not right. And I think it's time everybody start to demand a better recount on what is actually going on with the Republican and Democratic parties. These are in shambles. Both of them are an embarrassment, and congressmen that are currently in election should know that. And why are they allowing this nonsense to happen to the American public today? And I think it's time that everybody starts saying something about this, because it is a disgrace. And one of the reasons I didn't want to travel to Europe this year, because I'm ugly enough. Sorry.
Well, you're saying you're talking about the ugly Americans? Is that what you mean?
Yeah. Back in the 60s and 70s when, we were ugly back then. Well, if you think we were ugly back then, imagine what we must look like. The three words that I have repeatedly said, Europeans, and even in Mexico they call us, is ignorant, ill-informed, and complacent. And by the way, when I went to the theaters to watch a great movie called Suicide Squad, oh man, every fourth person walking into that theater was more than obese. Don't worry, we'll make more in Doritos. It's crazy.
Rick, you mentioned the term ugly American. And if I remember correctly, that was a term in the 1960s that started maybe even a little bit before. And what it was about is Americans traveling abroad, these arrogant, loud, demeaning, thoughtless, ignorant.
And thinking they owned everything because of their wealth.
Yeah, and they would send postcards back when they traveled abroad, and on the postcards it would say like, "Oh, you wouldn't believe these pitiful people, in this country. They don't have anything. They're just pathetic." And these would be written on postcards, not sealed in an envelope, so anyone who was handling the mail could read these horrible comments that the ugly Americans would write about where they were visiting, other countries. And it was disgraceful, the behavior of these Americans. And as a result, the term ugly American.
I'm going to go one step further. This is important for me to say this. There is an individual who has a website called Philosopher's Stone. And back in the late 60s and actually it was in the middle 70s when Iona Miller and myself began writing as a pen name under Philo Stone. That was Philo from Alexandria, and the Stone part was to make it Philosopher's Stone. That was a pen name that later and will in the future be known as the Follower. And that was predicted over 150 years ago by Aleister Crowley in his second book, in the Book of the Law, where he said, add, divide, multiply, and understand, and one will follow. And by the way, that will be in reference to the Marshall Papers, which is now being in edit, and possibly one of the most important things I will ever do in terms of simply one chapter alone of Bob Marshall's genius was reviewed by a series of mathematicians in sacred geometry. And what they came up with is that this man set up the entire of Buckminster Fuller's math in one chapter of a number of chapters written on this man's work.
We'll be right back. Dr. Richard Allen Miller's with us. His website, docram.com. Doc, D-O-C-R-A-M, as in Richard Allen Miller. We'll be right back. Class, I'm a survivalist, and my plan is to be independent of everything that I can so that supply chain disruptions have a minimum impact on our family. What's the first thing that you do when the power goes out? I've researched the best value solar energy system that I can find, one that's backed by the technical support necessary for the undertaking. The system's installed and is generating electricity right now with equipment purchased from IronEdison.com. You heard Brandon Williams, CEO of IronEdison.com, right here on USA Prepares. Together, we designed our system. In my opinion, our IronEdison.com system has more features, more value, and more potential than any other system I've found. We chose the Snyder Electric system with a hybrid inverter, charge controller, power panel, battery disconnect, and the system control panel. If you want energy independence, as we have, please consider calling the engineering team at IronEdison.com, 720-432-6433, 720-432-6433.
People who can afford a LASIK procedure sure are lucky. Imagine being able to throw away your contacts and glasses. Imagine waking up tomorrow with 20/20 vision. Too bad everyone can't afford LASIK. Well, guess what? There's a company that agrees with you. The LASIK Vision Institute is now offering dramatically low prices on high-quality LASIK to make it affordable for everyone. That means you get the latest FDA-approved LASIK technology for a fraction of what others charge. And if you call right now, we'll schedule a free appointment so you can discover if LASIK is right for you. Results may vary. Call 1-800-725-2487. Even better, if you're one of the first 100 callers, ask about an extra 20% discount off our already low-cost services. We've already performed over 1 million procedures. Let us help you. Discover how you can get the quality LASIK experience you deserve at a fraction of what others charge. For your free appointment, call 1-800-725-2487, 1-800-725-2487.
There is an affordable alternative to the high cost of healthcare that offers freedom from insurance while providing compliance with the Obamacare individual mandate. Imagine having access to quality, affordable healthcare that allows you the freedom to choose your doctor and hospital. Members can share up to 100% of necessary medical expenses, including some alternative treatments. Find out how you and your family can contain healthcare costs without giving up your freedom. Go to libertyoncall.org. That's libertyoncall.org.
Dangerous blood clot device alert. If you or a loved one had an IVC filter placed to prevent blood clots from traveling to your heart or lungs and suffered an injury, you may be entitled to substantial financial compensation. The FDA warns that IVC filters may cause serious complications, such as heart or lung damage, internal bleeding, and even death. These dangerous blood clot devices can break, and the metal fragments can travel to your heart or lungs, causing serious injuries. If you or a loved one suffered organ damage or other injuries from an IVC filter, you may be entitled to substantial financial compensation. Act now. Time is limited to file a claim. For a free consultation and free information, call Injury Help Desk at 800-478-1507. 800-478-1507. 800-478-1507. This is an advertisement. Paid non-attorney spokesperson. InjuryHelpDesk.com is responsible for this advertisement. Principal office, Las Vegas, Nevada.
Are you worried about how dangerous the world has become? In these days of terrorist attacks, natural disasters, or even a future collapse, you need to be medically prepared to keep your family safe. I'm Joe Alton, MD of store.doomandbloom.net, where you'll find an entire line of uniquely designed medical kits and supplies for when help is not on the way. For everything from individual first aid kits to the ultimate family medical bag, go to store.doomandbloom.net today. That's store.doomandbloom.net. You'll be glad you did.
Doc Ram's with us. Hey, Rick, I'm looking at the headlines here. I typed in Bill Clinton speaking fees. And it says here, now this is CNN.com, $153 million in Bill and Hillary Clinton speaking fees documented. Goes on to say, Hillary Clinton and her husband, former President Bill Clinton, combined to earn more than $153 million in paid speeches from 2001 until Hillary Clinton launched her presidential campaign. $153 million. In total, the two gave 729 speeches from February 2001 until May. I'm looking at the date of this story. This was May of 2016. And the average payday was $211,000 for each address. Each one of these speeches averaged $211,000. Now, I was wondering, why the Clintons would want to do this. They have turned a job as president into job used to pay $200,000 a year. I think they bumped it up to $400,000. They turned that into $153 million since 2001. That's an enormous amount of money. What do you think, Rick? Is this just me? Okay. Okay, it looks like Rick Miller got disconnected. Okay, John's going to try and call him back. So let me just tell you about this. So, in total, the two Clintons, Bill and Hillary, gave 729 speeches from February 2001 until May, and they received this average of $211,000 per address. And so that's an enormous amount of money, and you've got to wonder why anybody would want to be president. Well, you can become filthy, filthy rich by doing that. The next question is, when a person, Rick, you there?
Yes, I sure am.
I was talking about the, can't say. I got to tell you this.
I do know that I am now being buzzed, not so much harassed as made aware of an AI that is in and out of my computer many times a day. And I'm not talking about person of interest, but it's like that. I'm being observed, and it's letting me know that by synchronicity of things are way too coincidental.
Okay, well, since you've mentioned that, I was going to say at the beginning of this broadcast, it's really interesting. Whenever we talk about Hillary Clinton on this broadcast, I seem to have a problem. Either I get disconnected, or our instructor gets disconnected, or something happens. It never happens during a commercial break. Never happens during top of the hour news. But it seems to be right. It seems to be centered around the discussion of Hillary Clinton. And if you look at that,
let's talk about that person and Snowden and all the rest of what's going on.
All right. Well, while you were gone, Rick, I mentioned that Bill and Hillary have gained $153 million in speaking fees since 2001. And that average is about $211,000 per speech or address. And they've given a total of 729 of them. That is an enormous amount of money. Enormous amount of money for speaking. And then I noticed that on the Drudge Report yesterday, there was a post about the number of people who have died as a result of their association with Bill and Hillary. And so we want to talk about that. I mean, there are over 80 of them, but
I can tell you what my sense is. Yeah, she's a criminal. And the Snowden thing about the dead man switch, I have some information on that from, what is that, Greenwald, who is a whistleblower.
Hold that thought. Rick, hold that thought. We'll see if they'll let us come back on the air when we start talking about the dead bodies around the Clintons. We'll be right back.
Attention USA Prepares listeners. When you're on the road or have limited data or Wi-Fi, now you can listen to USA Prepares Unfiltered and Untapped at no extra charge on this non-federal phone number, 1-605-477-3249. Try it now to listen to USA Prepares 24/7 at no extra cost or data charges. These are not on federal lines. These are lines located on Indian reservations off the grid. Call 1-605-477-3249. No smartphones or internet needed. To hear USA Prepares Untapped and Off the Grid, just call 1-605-477-3249.
So you've got to take a state construction license exam or certification. Can't decide on what books or what chapters to study? Discover right now how you can eliminate unnecessary books and wasted study time. At contractorexam.com, our study materials zero in on state-required test topics in an effective, multiple-choice format. So whether you're a plumber, electrician, general contractor, or other construction-related trade, contractorexam.com will help get you prepared. Visit us at www.contractorexam.com today.
Paid non-attorney spokesperson. Injury Help Desk is responsible for this advertisement. Principal office, Las Vegas, Nevada. This ad is not legal advice, and the choice of a lawyer should not be based solely upon advertisement. Services may not be available in all states. Attention prescription antibiotic drug users. Have you or a loved one suffered an aortic dissection, aortic aneurysm, or abdominal aortic aneurysm after taking the prescription antibiotic drugs Levaquin or Avelox? These popular antibiotic drugs have been prescribed more than 80 million times since 2004, and medical studies show an increased risk of the following injuries: aortic dissection, aortic aneurysm, and abdominal aortic aneurysm. If you or a loved one used the prescription antibiotic drugs Levaquin or Avelox and suffered from aortic dissection, aortic aneurysm, or abdominal aortic aneurysm, you may be entitled to substantial financial compensation. Act now. Time is limited to file a claim. You may be entitled to substantial financial compensation. For a free consultation and free information, call Injury Help Desk at 800-823-3851, 800-823-3851, 800-823-3851.
Are you worried about your mom or dad living alone in their house? Hi, I'm Joan London. Listen, I know how difficult it is to find senior care for someone you love. That's why I recommend a free service called A Place for Mom. They are the nation's largest senior living referral service. Call A Place for Mom today.
To receive free information on senior living communities in your area, call A Place for Mom at 1-800-704-6182.
A Place for Mom offers free one-on-one advice from local advisors and a personalized list of senior living communities you can visit. If you have questions about senior care for your mom or dad, there's a place for answers, A Place for Mom.
Call A Place for Mom in the next 10 minutes to get your free ebook on financing senior care as well as free information on senior living communities in your area. Call 1-800-704-6182. That's 1-800-704-6182.
Think about this. Your community's aging water infrastructure systems are very likely to be contaminated with heavy metals like lead, disinfection chemicals like ammonia, chlorine and chloramines, and pharmaceuticals like statins, pain meds, and antidepressants. And no, water treatment plants are not equipped to filter these pharmaceutical toxins out. Protect your family's water supply with the trusted Big Berkey water filter. New NSF EPA certified lab tests show Big Berkey water filters remove chloramines, pharmaceuticals, BPA, pesticides, bacteria, and viruses, all forms of fluoride, and much more. Big Berkey water filters are the original and most trusted on the market, the gold standard in water purification, and our filters last for years at less than 2 cents per gallon. Big Berkey, the one powerful enough to purify stagnant pond water. Get your Big Berkey today. Call 1-877-99-BERKEY or click BigBerkeyWaterFilters.com. That's 1-877-99-BERKEY. Big Berkey Water Filters, for the love of clean water.
Are you tired of commuting to a job that makes someone else rich, working harder than ever, but getting nowhere? Do you hate spending hundreds of dollars every week on daycare, having someone else raise your children? With our opportunities, you can start earning money as soon as next week. You get to be the boss, work from home, and live a happier life. At Be the Boss Network, you'll find hundreds of work-from-home opportunities that you can literally start today and be earning money as soon as next week. Go to freedom106.com and start earning money as soon as next week. You get to be the boss. Get out of the rat race. Work from home. Go to freedom106.com right now and change your life today. That's freedom, the number 106.com. Go to freedom106.com and start earning money as soon as next week. You be the boss. Go to freedom106.com.
Dr. Richard Allen Miller is with us. Rick, several years ago, before we talk about the Clinton death list, I want to share this short story with you, and we'll get into some of the deaths surrounding Bill and Hillary Clinton. Several years ago, I was on a radio station in Springfield, Missouri, and one of our instructors called me up off the air, and he said, "Hey, Vinny, we're having a We're having a petition signing here downtown Springfield. We got to stop these Walmart stores. I mean, there's so many Walmart supercenters and neighborhood markets, and now they want to take this church property and turn it into another Walmart neighborhood market. And it's just, it's killing businesses, and it's sending money to China, and we've got to stop it. And we need X number of signatures in order to do that." And I said, sure, I'd be glad to support that. And so I announced it on the air where the petitions could be signed in downtown Springfield. And I was on a local station there. Well, we got more than enough signatures. And I'm not going to give you the name of this person because he's going to be on the air with us next week. And he's going to talk about his association with Hillary and how he met her at the corporate headquarters of Walmart in Bentonville, Arkansas. He also met Sam Walton. And he when he describes Hillary, he talks about how evil she is and what she's like in person. And these stories that you hear about how she is offensive. He relates to that because he saw it firsthand. Well, here's what happened. So he came on the radio with me after we got the signatures, and he was talking about Hillary Clinton and Walmart and how Walmart will come into a village and take over, literally take over. They'll come in with low prices and they'll slowly raise their prices, and they will dominate and put other businesses out of business, their former competitors. Well, he talked about this, and he was the store manager of a farm and ranch type store. He was the store manager. So he was off on Friday, but he worked on Saturday. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, those were his days to be on duty at the store. He was on the air with me on Friday, went to work Saturday morning, and their corporate officers were waiting for him, and they said, you've got a real passion about Walmart, and by the way, you're fired. You were on the radio with Finelli, and you're so passionate about Walmart that you're fired. You no longer have a job here at this farm and ranch chain. Now, who is this farm and ranch chain? Well, they are not directly associated with Walmart. They are not part of the Walmart umbrella. However, they are a corporation that buys the old Walmart stores. So when Walmart outgrows one of their older stores, this company buys the property and then puts their farm and ranch stores in there. So are they associated with Walmart? Indirectly. They buy the property. So they have an interest in keeping the peace with Walmart. So this store manager of that farm and ranch store was fired as a result of talking about Hillary and Walmart on the radio with me. And I got a call from him recently. And he said, Vinny, you want to talk about Hillary? You want to talk about what's happening? You want to talk about who she really is? And I said, sure. He said, well, we're both going to die if we do that. I said, well, let's do it. So that's what's going to happen next week. And it seems that whenever we talk about Hillary, we have a problem. So I wanted to share that little story. And he is an instructor. He's been on the air with us several times. You haven't heard him recently, but he's coming back because he's very, very concerned about what could happen as a result of this election. So, do you have a comment before we go on to the Clinton death list?
Well, I think the comment I would make is your death list that exists and how many people are dead and synchronicity and how that works.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, the Drudge front page of Drudge Report, even right now, talks about the Clinton death list. And if you click on that, you'll come to a post in the dailymail.co.uk, and that's where I am. And I'll post this link on our website, next commercial break. So here it is. It says, who else is on the Clinton death list? The names of the various internet lists vary from one website to another, but these are among the most frequently cited as possible victims of a vast Clinton conspiracy. So the first on the list is Kevin Ives and Don Henry, both 17 years old, crushed by a train August 23rd, 1987. Their deaths were ruled accidental, with the medical examiner saying that they had fallen asleep on a railroad line after smoking marijuana, but a grand jury found that they had been murdered before being placed on the tracks. They allegedly stumbled onto a plot to smuggle drugs and guns from an airport in Mena, Arkansas, that Bill Clinton was said to be involved in as the state governor. So these two young people allegedly stumbled onto this smuggling operation. They were murdered, placed on the tracks, and were killed. And the medical examiner ruled the death was accidental. That's two. They were 17 years old. And, class, if you watch the Netflix series Scandal, you will see on the television screen, it's fictional, but boy, it sure sounds like a documentary to me, that if you're closely associated with the Oval Office or the governor's office, you can easily be executed because you might know something as a close personal friend of one of these congenital liars. And that's the term we started using yesterday, that Hillary Clinton is a congenital liar from birth. Next, Victor Reisner, R-A-I Raiser, R-A-I-S-E-R, 53 years old. Small plane crash, July 30, 1992. The second finance co-chair of Bill Clinton's presidential campaign was killed along with his son during a fishing vacation in Alaska. Campaign press secretary Dee Dee Myers called Raiser a major player in the organization. So, plane crash. Next, Paul Tully, 48. Apparent heart attack, September 25, 1992. A chain-smoking, heavy-drinking political consultant who weighed in at more than 320 pounds. Tully died 7 weeks before Clinton's first presidential election win. He had been political director of the DNC during Clinton's rise. Tully was on the left of the Democrat Party and usually worked for those who shared his views. However, he agreed to work for Clinton because he was impressed with his oratory and thought he was the only Democrat who could beat President George Bush. So he died of an apparent heart attack. Paul Gober, G-O-B-E-R, 36. Single car accident, December 7, 1992. Paula Gober. She was Clinton's interpreter for the deaf for several years, and traveled with him while he was governor of Arkansas. Her vehicle overturned on a bend, throwing her 30 feet. There were no witnesses. Now, class, you know that Bill Clinton liked to have his way with all kinds of women. You know that. You heard Larry Nichols say that right here on USA Prepares. So, you know, there's always questions in my mind when there's a female involved with Bill Clinton. Next, Vince Foster. Vince Foster committed. Now, I'm just reading this post. Okay, these are not my words. Vince Foster committed suicide on July 20, 1993. He was an Arkansas lawyer who Bill appointed as deputy White House counsel when he became president in 1993. It didn't take long for Foster to realize that he had made a terrible mistake by accepting the post. He hated the work and fell into deep depression. Just 6 months into the job, his body was found in his car in Fort Marcy Park, Virginia. A gun in his hand and a suicide note torn into 27 pieces in the trunk. Now, these are my words. Now, Larry Nichols doesn't believe that it was suicide. He said that right here on the broadcast. And he also said that Hillary Clinton was having relations with Vince Foster. Now, how would it look if the first lady was in the press as having an affair? She would be the first one that would make the press as having an affair with a man, right? So, Rick, do you have any comments?
What's good about Trump? You know, they're all bad. Why?
Well, I haven't found a list of dead bodies about him yet, but I can do a search.
Well, there's that part for sure. There's a bunch of ego, and to presume that he's smarter than someone like me because he has more money.
Well, his IQ is said to be between 120 and 130. And George W. Bush, I don't have it in front of me, but I remember reading his IQ was in the 120-something range. He was said to be of the lowest IQ.
Bush was characterized by John Belushi in Animal House. So that's where that goes when he's driving at the end of the movie toward the White House with a big, buxom blonde. Look, the whole thing's nuts. And we have no choice. And I refuse to vote for somebody that I don't believe in because I'm voting against someone else. That's wrong. So where are we today?
And I've got, so George W. Bush's IQ is 124.
Well, that's the Toga party. And Toga.
Well, Belushi, Belushi was probably way brighter than George W. Bush. Donald Trump, 120 to 130. We'll be right back.
Yeah.
Exercise and deep breathing gets oxygen into the blood but does not guarantee you get oxygen into your 372 trillion cells. Largely, the essential fatty acids, alpha-linolenic and linoleic acids, control oxygen transfer from the blood to the cells. These essential fatty acids are called essential because they must be obtained from the diet on a regular basis. Many people are aware of the value of supplementing with flax or hemp seed oil. What most people don't know is that due to current methods of pressing, all these oils are significantly damaged and oxidized by the time you consume them. What everyone needs to know is that there are new seed oils on the market that are pressed in a manner that protects the oils from damage and oxidation. Even athletes get cancer, which means that despite their abundant oxygen uptake into the blood, the transfer of oxygen into the cells is not occurring. I invite you to try the Andreas seed oils and see for yourself what a difference you can feel in energy, reduction of appetite, and well-being. Call 888-988-3325 or visit sacredseedoils.com. That's sacredseedoils.com.
Hunters, anglers, campers, and survivalists. Get back to nature. Expand your horizons with the highest quality, most versatile, unique slingshots and sling bows on the market at slingbow.com. Slingbow products are compact and models start from just $17.98. They're perfect for your bug-out bag or storing in your vehicle. Give yourself and your loved ones the excitement and tradition of Slingbow, a new frontier in archery and truly modern twist on this primitive survival tool. Feel the thrill only at slingbow.com.
The investment world isn't fair. A precious metals trader buys gold and silver at spot price. You pay his price plus fees, costs, and shipping. But today, you don't. Today, JM Bullion offers a 10-ounce bar of pure silver at spot price. No fees, no markups, no shipping. Invest in something real, not Wall Street paper. 10 ounces of silver at spot price. Visit realpricesilver.com for this limited time offer. One per household, 50 United States only. realpricesilver.com. Is negative content or comments on the web affecting your personal or professional reputation? Unfavorable comments, embarrassing pictures, videos, legal documents, and negative articles can ruin your personal life, your career, or your business. It happens a lot, and it's just not fair. But what can you do? ReputationDefender.com can help protect your good name. Get a free consultation now. Call 800-831-0771. That's 800-831-0771. Call right now for a free expert reputation analysis. It's easy to squash the unfair attacks with our patented system, and the analysis is absolutely free. Make the best things about you jump out in searches. Protect your personal and professional reputation, your business, and your income. Get your free reputation analysis from ReputationDefender.com right now. Call 800-831-0771. 800-831-0771. That's 800-831-0771. Or visit ReputationDefender.com today.
Do you ever feel like you're being watched? Like someone or some company is tracking your every move online? I know I do. That's why I trust Private Internet Access VPN to keep me safe when I'm online. I use it to encrypt my traffic and use an anonymous IP address. Private Internet Access keeps your internet traffic safe from unwanted eyes so you can finally feel safe. $40 a year for peace of mind is a no-brainer. Sign up today at privateinternetaccess.com. Once again, that's privateinternetaccess.com.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, the inventor of MyPillow, and like all of you out there, I had problems sleeping. Pillows would go flat, I would flip-flop all night long, I would wake up with a sore neck, maybe a headache, or feel like I needed a nap even though I slept 8 hours. When I invented MyPillow, I wanted it to where you can move the patented fill to give you the exact support you need as an individual, regardless of sleep position. MyPillow will get you into that deep REM sleep faster, and you will stay there longer. It's not about how much time we spend in bed, it's about how much of that quality sleep we get. I do all of my own manufacturing right here in the United States. I have a 10-year warranty. You can wash and dry my pillow, and I give you a 60-day money-back guarantee, so you have nothing to lose. And here's my best offer ever. You can buy one of my pillows and get one absolutely free.
Go to mypillow.com or call 800-870-0305 and use promo code GCN. That's mypillow.com or 800-870-0305 with promo code GCN.
This is an alert. If your business or church is building this year, you're about to pay more than you should. This could mean thousands of dollars more for your office, retail space, church, or warehouse. A General Steel building can save you as much as half the cost and time of similar conventional construction. And we're offering rebates of up to $20,000 to help you build today. Call General Steel for free information that could save you thousands. Call 866-91-STEEL. 866-91-STEEL. 866-91-STEEL.
Rick Miller's with us. Rick, you were talking about some of the IQs involved in the presidential race, and I mentioned that G.W. Bush had the lowest IQ as reported that I found on the internet. He was at 124. Gerald Ford, whom I met, spent about, 15 minutes with in a small group meeting, about 5 of us, and President Gerald Ford. I didn't think he was all that bright. Well, Rick,
pretty bad.
I'll just tell you the story. So about 5 guys were involved in building a data center for a credit card bank, and Gerald Ford was on the board of directors. So he was coming for his annual meeting in the white glove tour of this new building that we built and the new data center with all the blinking lights and the IBM mainframe computers and that kind of thing. And so we were talking with him. Secret Service was, I guess, outside the room with their semi-automatic machine guns under their coats. And we were telling him about the millions of transactions and the size of this mainframe. In my job, I was the data guy. I was in charge of linking computers to computers and high-speed data and that kind of thing. And so we were all there as the architects of this system, explaining how this worked to President Gerald Ford. And for 15 or 20 minutes, we told him about the statistics and the equipment and what was what and what these big boxes were in this air-conditioned room with the glass windows and the blinking lights. And when we were all done with the presentation, we said, "Mr. President, do you have any questions?" And he was leaning on this big hard drive, which was half height. It was the size of a refrigerator, but about maybe 3 feet tall. He was kind of leaning on that, and he had bad knees from football injuries. And he said, "Yeah, I had just one question. What's the difference between hardware and software?" And that's what Gerald Ford said. And my jaw dropped when I heard that. I'm thinking, man, oh man, we think that this guy is really bright, and he doesn't know the difference between hardware and software. And this was in the 1980s. So that was Gerald Ford, IQ 127. Then you had Ronald Reagan, whose IQ was reported at 130, and then George Bush's father, Herbert Walker Bush, 131. Richard Nixon tied him for 131. Dwight David Eisenhower was 131.9. George Washington was a little brighter. He was at 132.5. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, he was at 139.6. Dishonest Abraham Lincoln was at 140. John Adams, 142.5. Barry Obama, Barry Soetoro, he's at 145. So he's bright enough to know better. Teddy Roosevelt, he was at 149. Jimmy Carter was pretty bright. They said he was a U.S. Navy nuclear engineer. He used to say it nuclear, but nuclear engineer, 153. William Jefferson Blythe Clinton, he's smart enough to know better. He's at 156. John Fitzgerald Kennedy, a little brighter at 158. Thomas Jefferson, even brighter than that, 160. And winning the parade is John Quincy Adams at 168.8. So those who were presidential hopefuls in this election, Jeb Bush at 128, Ted Cruz at 135, Mitt Romney, when he was interested, he was at 142. Hillary, subject of part of today's class, 140, and then Donald Trump's is estimated at 120 to 130. So those are how bright these guys are. So some of them are bright enough to deceive us, and that would be, Hillary at 140 and Barry at 145.
I have a question about IQ because I've been tested, and Washington State University, WSU, ran thorough tests on me because I became known when I was in grad school later. I'll talk about that later if you'd like, because IQ doesn't mean anything.
Oh, I'm glad because I might not have a high one. Actually, I do know what mine is. Rick Miller and I will be right back right after these few short commercial announcements and top of the hour news. And we're going to talk about intelligent quotients. Class, I'm a survivalist, and my plan is to be independent of everything that I can so that supply chain disruptions have a minimum impact on our family. What's the first thing that you do when the power goes out. I've researched the best value solar energy system that I can find, one that's backed by the technical support necessary for the undertaking. The system's installed and is generating electricity right now, with equipment purchased from IronEdison.com. You heard Brandon Williams, CEO of IronEdison.com, right here on USA Prepares. Together, we designed our system. In my opinion, our IronEdison.com system has more features, more value, and more potential than any other system I've found. We chose the Snyder Electric system with a hybrid inverter, charge controller, power panel, battery disconnect, and the system control panel. If you want energy independence, as we have, please consider calling the engineering team at IronEdison.com, 720-432-6433, 720-432-6433.
In these uncertain times, it makes sense to have a sustainable backup method to cook food and boil water. If your current plan includes using a fuel-burning stove or cooking over an open fire, then there's a much better way. The Minuteman Rocket Stove is a biomass-burning cooking stove that only requires small quantities of sticks and twigs for fuel. The Minuteman Stove is easy to use, smokeless, portable, powerful, and sustainable. For the finest in survival cooking stoves and fire starters made right here in the USA, go to MinutemanStove.com. That's MinutemanStove.com.
Attention backpackers on a budget. Why spend $80 to $300 to pump clean survival water? Introducing the Viba Water Pump Kit from Viba Outdoor Products. Super easy to use and super lightweight at only 6.5 ounces, the Viba Water Pump Kit provides high flow rate at 1 ounce per stroke, can be one-hand pumped, and is dependable and affordable at only $24.99, filter not included. Get your Viba Water Pump Kit at VIBA-ODP.com from Viba Outdoor Products.
Everyone all set, cocked, locked? Hour number 2 of USAPrepares.com. Rick Miller's with us, Dr. Richard Allen Miller. His website, docram.com. So if you'd like to peruse any of his books, his writings, and his thoughts, docram.com. Rick, hour number 1, we were finishing up with IQ, and you wanted to talk more about IQ. So please share it with us.
Okay. The way that it is, where previously when I was involved, prior to Mensa or any of those things, they used what was known as the Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Index, and then another one came out, CPI, which was the California version of that. And really, when I took it, I was aware on several levels of what they were really asking when they would give you 3 examples of something and what would the 4th one be, that kind of thing. It was stretching your imagination on projection and noticing detail, or the way this curves and the way that doesn't, that kind of thing. And really, what they're measuring is survival coefficient. That is essentially what an IQ test is, as I understand it in relationship to myself and my awareness. Now, some people believe me enlightened. I'm not. I am essentially aspiring toward enlightenment as a physicist, which by definition may be impossible. Physics is not the correct way of looking at the universe. It is the leading religion of this world today, and not Christianity, science. Now, I'm not, it's a handicap and for enlightenment. And an artist will probably have a far easier way of aspiring toward enlightenment than someone working with the other side of the brain. By the way, the brain can be seen as a cavitation process and in its attempt to integrate the white and the black. That's like a white hole and black hole as a metaphor. And so I have no illusions on what I am and what I am not. I have just been summarily dismissed by someone, that was seeking my help. And when I tried to offer it, they did not like my response because it did not fit with their belief systems. And it must be absolutely stressed that belief systems like faith, being the white part of fear, is the dark part. Neither are real. Faith is not any more real than fear is. They are essentially the opposites of each other, and yet it isn't about those two things. It is about the integration of them. God is not good or evil. He is like the comic book Conan, he's not involved in that struggle. That's man's projection onto him. And if one wants true enlightenment, one's going to have to start with some better definitions than their assumed truths, because that's what physics is about. You start with assumed truths and then definitions, and then you go to theorems, postulates, and corollaries, and da-da-da, and then you try to, it's a protocol or a way of being. And I am going to, hopefully, walk both lands of integrating my right and left brain, because it is not about the right or left. It is about the integration of the two in the moment. The future and the past don't really exist per se. What we have is this moment right now. And my writings in physics on time travel have led me to some extraordinary possible conclusions on what happens at the moment of and the moment just after death. And it's not at all what anybody's talking about. And yet, we find confirmation in such things as Merkaba mysticism and the Upanishads, ancient writings. So here we are at the end of days with what I will call an opportunity. And Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump are reflections of what is going on in the physical world and why this is not where the real war is being battled. The real war is inside each of us, and we have a choice. And that choice is what made us God's favorite. It is the ability to choose this way over that way. And these are, if you have an option to look at what's going on, the one I did in Workbook 2 that just came out starts off that whole book by saying everything works out in the end. And if things aren't working out, it's not yet the end. And that is a way of being that is using your belief as a tool rather than a God-given absolute, which does not exist.
Rick, there's a prayer that the Catholics say that ends in "now and at the hour of our death, amen." You were talking about the moment of death. Do you want to share with us what your thoughts are on that? What happens? When
CERN, prior to starting this nonsense in creating a singulate or a black hole, occurred, they did an experiment on the so-called Big Bang, when a quark gluon plasma existed, and then in the next tenth of a millionth of a second began to mutate into what we now call elementary particles. And at that moment, when they did this experiment of producing a simulation of the Big Bang, something remarkable was created. A reflected universe. And that means that when the Big Bang started and we had the water moving outward in what we call the future, toward the future, a second universe was created that moves back toward the past. Isn't that interesting? What do you think that might imply? Well, from a physics point of view, which, by the way, is not correct, it is a way of looking at things and not necessarily useful in this situation, it would suggest that at the moment, today, right now, your universe, the one you're in right now that has the moment moving toward the future, means that every time you have a aha moment where you all of a sudden get it, what happens with that is that you end up with more questions than you have answers. And from a metaphor point of view. And at the moment of death, what happens then would reflect the opposite. which means that you know everything and that there are no more questions, and that what happens next is you do not move backwards to becoming a child. You move backwards in becoming childlike, where it is no longer a drop of water, it is a cavitation that has trapped the medium in which it's falling. And in our case, from a metaphorical perspective of the sixth epoch, that is Taphasia, or trial by fire. And so there are 8, as a metaphor, there are 8 different cavitations of elements, and the relationship of one element to another, spirituality, that gives you the reflected universe in reflection. And what happens is that drop of water becomes a cavitation ball, trapping that medium, and each time it hits, it becomes a little bit less, and it vibrates down into the stillness of union. And that is the distinction, according to Maslow, in the hierarchy of your belief systems. And I am going to stress this very important, that our next level of awareness will be the use of beliefs as tools rather than God-given absolutes. If you are, and the way I've always used this in Power Tools was, if you are a staunch Christian and 2 aliens walked in the door, would you be able to see them? I wouldn't have seen it if I hadn't believed it. What is real is not physics. It's your imagination. And once you get it in your mind's eye, whether I explain it to you in artistic forms or physics, once you see it in your mind's eye, that part is what makes it real. And it's different for each of us in this moment of trial by fire, as a metaphor.
Since 1809, live free or die was the official state motto for the state of New Hampshire. And George in New Hampshire, welcome.
Hi. Hello, Dr. Miller. Hope you're feeling better, Vincent. You're on the mend.
Oh, I am feeling so much better. I really am. I haven't had a chance to make many return calls. I haven't talked to Joey in weeks and weeks. I haven't talked to Ed. There's so many of our instructors who have called here, left messages. I just wasn't up to it. But now I'm just starting to feel like so much better, and I can actually hop on the tractor. So thank you for the kind words, George.
No, that's good. Dr. Miller, I just wanted to say, Rick, that, there's a book, Finding God in Physics. I could never wade into it because I guess I don't have that bend of mind like you do. And I think it would be something that it really would be. The author was invited up to Canada to speak to a convention or some annual meeting of physicists from all over the world. And I guess they gave him like 5 or 10 minutes, and then they asked him to stay longer and talk a little longer. Anyway, what I see a physicist as, I'm sorry.
Hold that thought. What you see a physicist as. George, New Hampshire will be right back right after these few short commercial announcements. Rick Miller's with us. I'm Ben Finelli. Class, I'm a survivalist, and my plan is to be independent of everything that I can so that supply chain disruptions have a minimum impact on our family. What's the first thing that you do when the power goes out? I've researched the best value solar energy system that I can find, one that's backed by the technical support necessary for the undertaking. The system's installed and is generating electricity right now with equipment purchased from IronEdison.com. You heard Brandon Williams, CEO of IronEdison.com, right here on USA Prepares. Together, we designed our system. In my opinion, our IronEdison.com system has more features, more value, and more potential than any other system I've found. We chose the Snyder Electric system with a hybrid inverter, charge controller, power panel, battery disconnect, and the system control panel. If you want energy independence, as we have, please consider calling the engineering team at IronEdison.com, 720-432-6433, 720-432-6433.
Warning, if you're drowning in debt you can't afford, do not let the credit card companies trick you into thinking that you have to pay it all back, because you don't. What the credit card companies don't want you to know is that there's actually a way to get debt-free without paying off your entire debt or going bankrupt. If you have $5,000 or more in credit card debt, you now have the right to settle that debt for a fraction of what you owe. For free information, call Credit Associates now. 1-800-954-9674. We'll even show you how much money you could save. If you can't afford to pay off all your debt, do not let the credit card companies trick you into thinking that you have to. Call Credit Associates now for free information on how to get debt-free faster than you ever thought possible without debt consolidation or bankruptcy. We depend on your success and offer a guarantee, so there's no risk. For free information, call now. 1-800-954-9674. That's 1-800-954-9674. 1-800-954-9674.
There is an affordable alternative to the high cost of healthcare that offers freedom from insurance while providing compliance with the Obamacare individual mandate. Imagine having access to quality, affordable healthcare that allows you the freedom to choose your doctor and hospital. Members can share up to 100% of necessary medical expenses, including some alternative treatments. Find out how you and your family can contain healthcare costs without giving up your freedom. Go to libertyoncall.org. That's libertyoncall.org.
Are you worried about your mom or dad living alone in their house? Hi, I'm Joan London. Listen, I know how difficult it is to find senior care for someone you love. That's why I recommend a free service called A Place for Mom. They are the nation's largest senior living referral service. Call A Place for Mom today.
To receive free information on senior living communities in your area, call A Place for Mom at 1-800-704-6182.
A Place for Mom offers free one-on-one advice from local advisors and a personalized list of senior living communities you can visit. If you have questions about senior care for your mom or dad, there's a place for answers, A Place for Mom.
Call A Place for Mom in the next 10 minutes to get your free ebook on financing senior care as well as free information on senior living communities in your area. Call 1-800-704-6182. That's 1-800-704-6182.
Attention backpackers, on a budget, why spend $80 to $300 to pump clean survival water? Introducing the Viba Water Pump Kit from Viba Outdoor Products. Super easy to use and super lightweight at only 6.5 ounces, the Viba Water Pump Kit provides high flow rate at 1 ounce per stroke, can be one-hand pumped, and is dependable and affordable at only $24.99, filter not included. Get your Viba Water Pump Kit at viba-odp.com from Viba Outdoor Products.
Plus, if you'd like to call in, we'll pay for the call, 866-582-9933, 866-582-9933. George, in New Hampshire, you were talking about what you see a physicist as?
Well, a physicist or just scientist in general, there's two categories, I would say. One is you take a chair and you look at the design of the chair. You look at the materials, you look at the grain of the wood, you look at the flow, the stress points. Somebody can study that from so many different angles, and yet the question would be, do they ever get to meet the designer? Do you see the point I'm trying to make?
That was Plato and his concept of basic form, and what distinguished the purpose and intent of a chair over a couch. And a physicist generally approaches reality above the emotional plane. You have the physical, using my model only. Now, this is only my model of hierarchy of information, resolution, if you will. And you have the physical plane, and then you have the emotional plane, how you feel about something. And that's how your subconscious higher self often, most ways, communicates or dialogues with your consciousness. And then above that is the intellectual plane, and then the archetypal plane. And there are actually 4 more planes even above that in my system. But the archetypal plane is what constitutes the length, girth, and width of what makes a human different than a machine. And this is a hierarchy that I use It is not necessarily real. It's just one of my assumed truths about information rather than space-time, and holographic as opposed to quantum. Now, it doesn't mean I'm right. It means that most physicists approach their reality from an intellectual point of view in terms of isolating variables and the detail of what constitutes one thing distinguished from another. And the TOE, or theory of everything, that we've all aspired toward is in the grouping of information which has led to our current systems of mathematics called group theory and string theory later to knot theory, K-N-O-T, knot theory, and the way a plasma will not mix with itself in specific geometric form. Now, I don't know how to make that simpler other than to say that I am aspiring toward integration of becoming more archetypal rather than hanging out in the intellectual level of awareness. Now, that doesn't mean I'm going to pull it off. It's what I aspire toward. And here we are at the end of days, and I'm trying to integrate what is about to happen for me, and I choose to see it as an opportunity rather than something to be feared. Doesn't mean I'm right. It doesn't mean that I've got the answer. It is my choice because in many ways, death and other things like God are that which are not knowable. They don't work that way. They only are experienced. You can be in the presence of God but still not know it. You can know it from a conscious point of view, realizing the limitations of what consciousness is and what it is not.
I know you've taken it very far, and I know in your life you've been very, and so have you, Vincent, very, I'll even say to some degree myself, but you've been very, you've tested the boundaries. You've reached out and you've accomplished many things. But you mentioned the word presence. In the present moment, which you say is all we have is just now. And there was one definition of time, that time is different aspects of the same moment.
That's St. Augustine and his duration of consciousness. Even Robert Ornstein said that time is a duration of consciousness. It's the way we store memory. And who was it? Aristotle that said that memory is the scribe of the soul.
George, do you have more that you'd like to share with us on the other side?
I just have just a little more, but I don't want to take too much away from you.
Okay.
No,
all right.
I love your questions. They actually make
please
me
hold.
stretch.
Please hold, and then Mike in Tennessee, you're up after that.
ProPure water filters, making water great again. Taste and feel the difference with state-of-the-art filter technology. Pro 1 G2.0 and Pro Max filters are independent lab-tested to NSF standards. Choose from Gravity, Countertop, Pitcher, Shower, and Inline filtration products. There's a ProPure for you. Buy risk-free today. Visit your authorized ProPure dealer for details or ProPureUSA.com. That's ProPureUSA.com.
Introducing the fastest growing digital currency company in the world, OneLife. With over 2.1 million members, OneCoin is becoming the most powerful force in digital currency. It reached over $1 billion in revenue in its first year. No other company has accomplished such an impressive feat. Now you can achieve financial independence with the strength of OneLife. Find out how to build your financial dreams. 877-933-4747. 877-933-4747. Dedicated to helping you create financial abundance.
Have you checked your Google search results lately? Search results are usually the first impression that people form of you or your business, so make sure that they create a positive impression with ReputationDefender.com. What the internet says about you can have a big impact on your life and your livelihood, even if it's not true. Fortunately, you can now control how you look online and in online search results with ReputationDefender.com. Call 800-831-0771 now. That's 800-831-0771 for your free reputation analysis. If you have negative material from an ex-employee, upset patient, or former client, newspaper article, legal issue, social media, or other source showing up in your search results, you can combat it with ReputationDefender.com. Our dedicated experts in patented technology can help make your online search results look their best. Call 800-831-0771 to learn more. 800-831-0771. That's 800-831-0771. Or visit ReputationDefender.com.
This is a healthcare alert from the Pain Relief Hotline. If you, a family member, or a loved one suffers from knee, back, shoulder, or ankle pain and have Medicare as your primary insurance, we've got great news. You don't have to suffer any longer. You can immediately qualify for a pain-relieving brace at little or no cost to you by calling our 24/7 Pain Relief Hotline at 866-389-0620. Delivery is free and all paperwork is handled for you. If you are on Medicare and have knee, back, shoulder, or ankle pain, don't wait. You can qualify to immediately receive a pain-relieving brace at little or no cost by calling our 24/7 Pain Hotline now at 866-389-0620. Our representatives are standing by 24/7 to take your call and rush you your pain-relieving brace at little or no cost to you. Shipping is free and all paperwork is handled for you. Just call 866-389-0620. That's 866-389-0620. Again, 866-389-0620.
Dangerous blood clot device alert. If you or a loved one had an IVC filter placed to prevent blood clots from traveling to your heart or lungs and suffered an injury, you may be entitled to substantial financial compensation. The FDA warns that IVC filters may cause serious complications, such as heart or lung damage, internal bleeding, and even death. These dangerous blood clot devices can break, and the metal fragments can travel to your heart or lungs, causing serious injuries. If you or a loved one suffered organ damage or other injuries from an IVC filter, you may be entitled to substantial financial compensation. Act now. Time is limited to file a claim. For a free consultation and free information, call Injury Help Desk at 800-478-1507. 800-478-1507. 800-478-1507. This is an advertisement. Paid non-attorney spokesperson. InjuryHelpDesk.com is responsible for this advertisement. Principal office, Las Vegas, Nevada.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, the inventor of MyPillow, and like all of you out there, I had problems sleeping. Pillows would go flat, I would flip-flop all night long, I would wake up with a sore neck, maybe a headache, or feel like I needed a nap even though I slept 8 hours. When I invented MyPillow, I wanted it to where you could move the patented fill to give you the exact support you need as an individual, regardless of sleep position. MyPillow will get you into that deep REM sleep faster, and you will stay there longer. It's not about how much time we spend in bed, it's about how much of that quality sleep we get. I do all of my own manufacturing right here in the United States. I have a 10-year warranty. You can wash and dry my pillow, and I give you a 60-day money-back guarantee, so you have nothing to lose. And here's my best offer ever. You can buy one of my pillows and get one absolutely free.
Go to mypillow.com or call 800-870-0305 and use promo code GCN. That's mypillow.com or 800-870-0305 with promo code GCN.
Rick Miller's with us in Georgia, New Hampshire. You had some more thoughts?
We're in a war, as you well know, as Rick said and you have said, Vincent. And I honestly believe there's no such thing as coincidence. And I think between Dr. Shealy, what happened to Dr. Shealy, a very respectful, accomplished man at that meeting there at that Jimmy A's Egg, and was a slur. Not only was a slur on the whole USA Prepares, but I'll just say this: is that you got violently ill, then other people you've known in the faculty have been targeted. I think basically, I think you're being targeted, and I think the war we're in, they're inducing like a state of post-traumatic stress disorder in us. And there's a Colonel Anthony Monaco, Patriot Outreach, to give the thing away free. But it's a law lost art how to be still and know in the storm, rather than be torn up in that hurricane that's all around us. If we're in the eye of the storm, everything's calm. And from that perspective, and I know Rick, I think, would concur, from that perspective, you can see outward, and you can see what to do. But I'll just leave it fast with this, is that on a lighter note, have you ever heard of the Howard Intelligence Quotient Test, Dr. Rick?
No, I haven't. Tell me more, or I'll look it up. Howard.
Well, okay.
Was that like Howard the Duck?
No, I'm sorry. Was that the one with the what? I'm sorry?
The Howard the Duck and the battling the overlords. Howard as in Mo Howard. It came down to two categories. There were imbeciles and intelligent imbeciles. That's all I was going to say. There you go. That's what I'm feeling like. An imbecile that's trying to become intelligent. Yeah, okay. All right. Or I'll consider myself an enlightened idiot. That's all I'm going to say. But
and when you say
you.
One last thing, George, when you say Mo Howard, you're talking about the Three Stooges? I think he was. I think he was talking about the Three Stooges. Mike. Yeah, that's Mo Howard. Mo Howard. Mike in Tennessee, welcome.
Greetings. I wanted to just make an observation. The issue of time travel has been talked about in many forums recently over the last several months as it relates to the Mandela effect. I wanted to make an observation. The Mandela effect, for those that have not heard about it, it's basically where people have memories that are different than what the physical is, such as the memory of the lion shall lay with the lamb as a biblical reference, but when they pull out their book and they look in Isaiah, they see it says the wolf shall lie down with the lamb, and other things that have changed. If time travel is achievable, if it has been achieved to where they can go back in time, I'm not into this debate at the moment whether there is or isn't. The point I'm trying to make is that your memories of what you experienced would not have changed, because the time traveler would have gone back and changed things relative to that moment, even though historically the physical would have changed. He goes back in time, he changes something, but what you've experienced, your experience doesn't change, so you still have the memory of these things that you remember vividly, and they just don't match up with what the physical is, because the physical
That is why Aristotle said that memory is the scribe of the soul.
And because of that, hold on to your memories, because not only they're trying to steal our very soul, the essence of our soul, our spirits, our memories of such is the last straw. Because once we have no memory of our Creator and that we are a creation and that we have a spirit and a soul, then it's over.
That is why in The Modern Alchemist, I describe the stag and the unicorn in the forest goal, soul and spirit within matter.
There was once a people that lived in this land that were independent, self-sufficient, and self-governing. They provided for themselves. They self-regulated. Now they're a bunch of drunken drug addicts sitting on a reservation, cheating on each other, and looking for a handout and living in squalor. They were beat down so far and deprived of their history and their culture, and they eventually forgot.
That is what the American Indian on the West Coast refers to as medicine. Medicine, to be distinguished, Medicine Lodge, to be distinguished from Tribal Council, is the history of your background. And usually it's oral in terms of Kabbalah. It was an oral, QBL means word of mouth. And that Kabbalah was an oral tradition that you passed down like Enemy Mine in the movie, where you sang it to your children. And it is the songs and dances of your history. And that's why ghost dance and other things of that nature were outlawed, because it gave you personal power.
You're speaking truth. And most people won't understand what you just said. But if they look into it, they will.
That's why we have Medicine Lodge on the West Coast, and why most Indians like Hoopa and Yurok have lost their medicine. That's what we did in the longboat that we took from the Hoh River up to the up toward Nia Bay, in bringing the Puyallups and the macaw their medicine back, by bringing back their history.
As they stole the history from the Native Americans, so too the other people of this land now are being put on various drugs. They're being put on welfare. They're being deprived of their spirit and their souls, and they become nothing but a bunch of slaves. And
here we are at the end of days with a choice. And we have an opportunity here, not to something to fear, but something to look forward to as how I can now make this mine.
Educating the public on how to be confident and satisfied in their own abilities, and to be able to be willing to walk out there, step out of the boat, and walk out in faith that you will survive, you will stand, you will.
That is what IQ, by the way, is. It's survival coefficient. That's why the military used me, because when the shit hits the fan, there are only going to be maybe possibly 10% that will survive this. And what exactly would constitute that 10%? 2 if by sea and 1 if by land? Who knows? Stay tuned.
Rick, do you really feel that 10% will survive? I can't imagine 10% surviving.
Okay, right now, for example, Kerry Cassidy is going to do a major show with a bunch of RV users, remote viewers, that are all essentially suggesting that this month a major something or other is going to hit a city on Earth somewhere, and there will be massive amount of death. Is that true? We don't know. Stay tuned.
Identifying the enemy.
Go ahead, Mike.
I was going to say, identifying the enemy is very easy these days. It's the one that's wanting to offer you something in return for your signature.
There you go. What's involved? That's correct. I reached out. Someone asked me for help. I gave her help, and she didn't like my response, and now is, asking to be removed. It's okay, realizing I'm basically a 4-year-old, and even I don't know what's going to come out of my mouth next.
That's it. Rick, I don't think that's right. I'd say 7. I don't think 4 is right.
Oh, yeah, I'm probably younger. I'm a little brat kid, throwing tantrums.
Anything else, Mike?
10% of 1% would be a good start.
That's the number. That's the number I think. 10% of 1%, 1/10 of 1%. That's the number I've come up with as well. I just can't imagine. You look at the young people. I was in a waiting room yesterday at a doctor's office. Not for me. I drove someone else there, and I was in the waiting room, and I looked around. And I was reading some magazines, and there's not much to read in magazines because they're over 50% advertisements now, so there's no sense in even thinking about reading magazines. But as I looked around, everyone there, every single person in this waiting room was looking at his or her cell phone. Every single person. Of course, but not me, because I don't have one. But we have gone to a place where we are dependent on technology, and without it, we're alone. We become, I think, depressed. We keep looking at our phone, saying, "Did anyone text me? Did anyone send me any pictures?" And this one woman played her phone, and she was looking at some image of a baby crying and wailing, and it's like, well, this is my grandson. Isn't this wonderful? Full volume, everybody could hear it. It was distracting, annoying, and unacceptable. And that's the kind of things that's happening. So when you talk about, do I think she's going to survive? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. She's addicted to her phone. And just about everybody else that I saw that entire day is addicted as well. So I don't think those people are going to know what to do when it gets really bad. I'm convinced they don't have enough food. You go look at the shopping carts in the grocery stores or Chinese factory outlet. They're not packed. They can't afford to be packed. So, Mike, I think your number, your number agrees with my number.
In the book and the movie How the Grinch Stole Christmas, once all the toys and goodies and accoutrements were stolen from the people, instead of them whining and crying and moping and being in despair and having a fit, they circled up and they started singing because they were grateful for what they did have. Without that type of a mentality, there's not a lot of hope, because you have to have within yourself the capacity to carry on. And as right now, the mainstream control media and in the prisons, they say you can't and lay down. That's all mind control. I'm telling you, stand, because you can.
Yeah, stand and when appropriate, say no. Don't go along just because the herd's going in one direction. It could be the wrong direction. Mike, thanks so much for being with us today. Rick Miller and I will be right back after these few short commercial announcements. And I have a question about the weight of the soul.
Today, I became a biophoton woman. I put a tablespoon of the Andreas 5-seed oil in my morning's One World Way drink and was still happy and energized at 3 p.m. Normally, I feel tired and spacey at the end of the day, but today I felt energy and very clear. My friend at the farmer's market asked what I was on. She said my eyes looked bright and I had unusual energy for that time of afternoon. I told her there was a magical oil that enabled my body to absorb the sun's energy as if I were a plant. She said, I want some. A second One World Way shake with the oil when I got home took me to bedtime with that wonderful, abundant energy. I couldn't believe how much I got done and how great I felt. The combination of One World Way and 5-seed oil produced a significant health event in my life, the kind that makes you feel you've been given your life back with a bonus, and I'm 64.
5-seed oil in One World Way. For your fantastic health, call 888-988-3325 or visit sacredseedoils.com.
If you missed buying emergency food from the Patriotic Guys during their mega sale last month, be grateful. Even when they slashed their prices by 40%, you still get more food for your money from Ready Supply Foods. Ready Supply Foods sells 50 to 230% more food for your money, and we can prove it. With 23 delicious entrees, we also have 4 times the variety, too. Surviving a disaster is hard enough without worrying about starving to death. See how much more food you can get for your money at ReadySupplyFoods.com today.
So you've got to take a state construction license exam or certification. Can't decide on what books or what chapters to study? Discover right now how you can eliminate unnecessary books and wasted study time. At contractorexam.com, our study materials zero in on state-required test topics in an effective, multiple-choice format. So whether you're a plumber, electrician, general contractor, or other construction-related trade, contractorexam.com will help get you prepared. Visit us at www.contractorexam.com today.
We all know that Berkey Water Purification Systems are the most trusted name in water filtration. As an authorized Berkey dealer for over 6 years and serving thousands of satisfied customers, the Berkey Guy offers amazing specials for Berkey water filtration systems. The Berkey Light systems include a set of self-sterilizing and recleanable black purification elements that purify water by removing chlorine, pathogenic bacteria, cysts, and parasites to non-detectable levels and remove harmful chemicals such as herbicides and pesticides. Order the Berkey Light system today, complete with 2 black Berkey elements for only $231, and the Berkey Guy will ship your order free of charge. With the purchase of a Berkey Light, the Berkey Guy is also offering a set of fluoride and arsenic filters for only $39.99. That's over 30% off the retail price. Call the Berkey Guy at 1-877-886-3653. That's 1-877-886-3653. Or order online at goberkey.com. That's goberkey.com today.
Are you worried about how dangerous the world has become? In these days of terrorist attacks, natural disasters, or even a future collapse, you need to be medically prepared to keep your family safe. I'm Joe Alton, MD of store.doomandbloom.net, where you'll find an entire line of uniquely designed medical kits and supplies for when help is not on the way. For everything from individual first aid kits to the ultimate family medical bag, go to store.doomandbloom.net today. That's store.doomandbloom.net. You'll be glad you did.
Paid non-attorney spokesperson. Injury Help Desk is responsible for this advertisement. Principal office, Las Vegas, Nevada. This ad is not legal advice, and the choice of a lawyer should not be based solely upon advertisements. Services may not be available in all states. Attention prescription antibiotic drug users. Have you or a loved one suffered an aortic dissection, aortic aneurysm, or abdominal aortic aneurysm after taking the prescription antibiotic drugs Levaquin or Avelox? These popular antibiotic drugs have been prescribed more than 80 million times since 2004, and medical studies show an increased risk of the following injuries: aortic dissection, aortic aneurysm, and abdominal aortic aneurysm. If you or a loved one used the prescription antibiotic drugs Levaquin or Avelox and suffered from aortic dissection, aortic aneurysm, or abdominal aortic aneurysm, you may be entitled to substantial financial compensation. Act now. Time is limited to file a claim. You may be entitled to substantial financial compensation. For a free consultation and free information, call Injury Help Desk at 800-823-3851, 800-823-3851, 800-823-3851.
By now you know that wireless technology like cell phones do in fact pose dangers to the health and privacy of everyone. Block-It Pocket's wide range of products are unmatched in providing the protection you deserve. No scare tactics, just common sense. BlockItPocket.com offers quality American-made options to alleviate and eliminate these invisible dangers. Learn more at BlockItPocket.com or call 888-315-9618. BlockItPocket.com, enhancing health and privacy.
Class Dr. Richard Allen Miller's with us, and if you'd like to go to his website, docram.com, docram.com, and that's where you can buy power tools and other books that he has written, docram.com. Rick, I have a couple quick answer questions for you in the last remaining minutes. Weight of a soul, when a person dies, there's been some experimentation.
Carrington, the Carrington effect. That had to do with the ba and the ka, where there was at the moment of death, there was a weight loss that was believed to be the part of the soul that was leaving the body.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. And from my research, it was weighed in at about 3/4 of 1 ounce within seconds. Now, there is respiration and perspiration and those kinds of
and
things.
Water, etc. All of this is part of the soup of what is really going on and what is the important thing to weigh. The length, girth, and width, the idea of space and time, to measure things in those references. Well, just the measure of time between Greenwich Mean and some other place on Earth is different. And we have our atomic clocks and the precision of getting down into nanoseconds. But, again, it may well be that we're trying to measure the wrong things. And the Carrington effect has not been duplicated. It was tried to be duplicated by this laboratory and that, Sweden, etc. Stay tuned.
Well, so the point I'm trying to make is
attempt to try to validate God or something.
And the point I'm trying to make is there was a measurable difference, and if you account for respiration and sweat and those kinds of things and evaporation, there's still a 3/4 of an ounce difference that happens within seconds. Next thing I wanted to mention, Rick, is there's this thing called a mermaid syndrome, and there was a child born without legs, but with a tail-like appendage, if you will. And this child had about 150 operations, was born she died at 10 years of age. And there was another child, who was aborted as a fetus in China because this child also had this mermaid-like syndrome. What I'm talking about, Rick, is I am seeing, reading, and hearing about more birth defects than I've ever heard of in my life. And
Fukushima, that's a good place to start your study.
Right. That's where I was going with it. There's Fukushima and there's the toxins in the air. And then there was another post about, washing your clothes and you want to get your clothes clean. Okay, great. So where does that stuff go? The stuff that you want to get off your clothes, the toxins from the air and the things that you've rubbed against all day.
That's what the sudsing part of soap captures and locks onto, that discolors and makes the water from your laundry different color.
Right, and then it goes down the drain, and we don't have to worry about it because it's gone from our minds. But no, it's not gone from the planet. It's still here, and it's traveling downhill and going into our water supply. So we are consuming the things that we are discarding down the dishwasher drain, down the sink drain, down the toilets.
Well, I had someone that had a big deal about drinking his own urine, and the problem with that, his concern was, would that distilled water leach good minerals out of my body over bad ones? Again, measuring variables and what constitutes a variable and what do you want to be looking at and not. And I am always reminded of I wouldn't have seen it if I hadn't have believed it.
That's a really good point. And then, Rick, there's one other thing I wanted to mention. That is, I've noticed in my travels during the winter, I can find the temperature as I approach a city can be 10 degrees higher than in the countryside. So cities are warmer. And I'm thinking that that's a result of the heating systems that are leaking the heat outside through the walls of the building, the smokestacks, the chimneys, the black roofs, and so forth. And I'm wondering, are we heating the earth with all of these black roofs?
Well,
roads?
Yes, but really, it is orders of magnitude less than what the sun itself is doing. That's what's affecting the earth, is the sun. And guess what?
We're out of time. Yeah, we're out of time.
There it is.
Rick, thanks so much for being with us. Class, I'm a survivalist, and my plan is to be independent of everything that I can so that supply chain disruptions have a minimum impact on our family. What's the first thing that you do when the power goes out? I've researched the best value solar energy system that I can find, one that's backed by the technical support necessary for the undertaking. The system's installed and is generating electricity right now with equipment purchased from IronEdison.com. You heard Brandon Williams, CEO of IronEdison.com, right here on USA Prepares. Together, we designed our system. In my opinion, our IronEdison.com system has more features, more value, and more potential than any other system I've found. We chose the Snyder Electric system with a hybrid inverter, charge controller, power panel, battery disconnect, and the system control panel. If you want energy independence, as we have, please consider calling the engineering team at IronEdison.com, 720-432-6433, 720-432-6433.
Do you ever feel like you're being watched? Like someone or some company is tracking your every move online? I know I do. That's why I trust Private Internet Access VPN to keep me safe when I'm online. I use it to encrypt my traffic and use an anonymous IP address. Private Internet Access keeps your internet traffic safe from unwanted eyes so you can finally feel safe. $40 a year for peace of mind is a no-brainer. Sign up today at privateinternetaccess.com. Once again, that's privateinternetaccess.com.
Paid non-attorney spokesperson Adam Pulaski of the Pulaski Law Firm with principal office in Houston, Texas is the attorney responsible for the content of this ad. This ad is not legal advice, and the choice of a lawyer should not be based solely upon advertisement. Services may not be available in all states. Attention Xarelto users. If you or a loved one took Xarelto and suffered a serious bleeding event, you may be entitled to financial compensation. Xarelto is a popular prescription blood thinner used to prevent blood clots and protect patients from strokes. These serious bleeding events have led to numerous cases of hospitalization and even death. Phone lines are open 24/7. Call 800-261-0937. That's 800-261-0937.